once again, my name is Jeff Morgan from Dallas, Texas. This is Taran Champagne. And we were at a conference today talking about the freedom of information. One of the things that was addressed quite a bit was the issue of open courts. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so very specifically in my case, I was in a court hearing that a judge decided to shut down. Now, this is in strict violation of the Texas Constitution, which says that all courts shall be open. And while the goal of this conference was specifically about freedom of information, there was an underlying theme of transparency of government.
Absolutely.
And whether you're on the left or you're on the right, we all want to know where our taxpayer dollars are going, and that they're following the laws. People want to know that if you go to court, you can get a fair handshake. And that's when we started talking with some of these individuals about this idea of whether the courts shall be or shall be not open. So
one of the things they talked about is because we asked questions about one of the questions we asked was, should we be able to go and record courtroom proceedings or hearings that are online on YouTube? And because some judges put it out there, do not record, this little button.
Yeah, some of them misspell that stuff.
I know, yeah. And if you do this, you're in contempt of court. And we asked the question, and not one person defended that practice.
No.
And I can tell you that from other people that I spoke with as well, elsewhere, they're all saying this practice is abominable. So basically what you do have is judges kind of threatening you with fear, using a fear tactic to kind of shut you down to not have transparent courts. But they also talked about a certain committee that's looking at that right now. Do you remember all the details about that?
Yeah, so there is currently a subcommittee at the Supreme Court that's currently considering the rules. Basically, they're evaluating what's happened with all these online hearings.
Right.
And it is our responsibility now as the public to go out there and let them know this is wonderful. For those of you who have not engaged in court watching yet, I highly encourage you to do it so you can really see how abusive these family courts are.
Right.
Not only that, but it is your responsibility to rein in these judges when they are engaging in tyrannical behavior.
Right.
They may think they're tyrant judge gods, but they report to us.
Right. You know, it was interesting because one of the questions that I asked, I don't think you were there at the time, but I said, I appreciate the fact that I can go to, look at different hearings that have taken place within the House or the Senate, and I can go back and even weeks or months later see what was being said, what was being debated. They're archived.
Supreme Court, same thing.
Supreme Court, when every one of their hearings is open and it's archived. And I asked that question regarding the courts, the family courts, because sometimes what the family courts will do, they will have it streaming, and then as soon as they're done, it's gone. It's deleted. It's held private. And there seems to be a problem with that. I believe it's in Tennessee that when you go into a court, that the court actually creates either DVDs or CDs for both parties, basically for free. Because the other thing is, when you do not have this, you have a poor person who is going to be at a disadvantage and possibly not get due process because of enough transcript.
Yeah, that's one of the things they talked about is allowing for those individuals with, in lower financial means, they're not able to get justice because they can't afford the $5,000 transcript from their hearing.
And they even said you get as much justice as you can afford.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So by having these hearings online, it's been a boon to society as a whole, so we can see what actually is going on. Because before, if I wanted to go court watch, say Jeff was in a court, I'd have to drive. I'd have to show up to court, and say you were in Mineral Wells, and you were showing up to a court hearing, the judge may not let people in due to COVID concerns or something like that.
Yeah, imagine that. Palo Alto, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's neither here nor there. This allows all the people to watch.
Right.
And when it's appropriate, report on poor behavior
Right.
on the part of the court.
So if you're not doing anything nefarious, if you're upholding all of the standards, I would want people to investigate my court. I would want people to say, look, come into this judge's courtroom. He does things right. And we have a judge up in Denton.
You mentioned that.
Michael Johnson, I believe his name is. Michael Johnson, Jim Johnson, come into my court. And in fact, he'll even put out basically public information announcements. This is a very interesting case. It's going to be made. Come into your courts.
Yes, because the courts belong to us.
Right. And yet in the family courts, it's just the opposite. And as we've known, because we have seen cases where we've called up the judge or his clerk and said, can we get a link to this hearing? And then they're upset because they wanted to have it private, and then it appears they retaliate against the person that we're going into court watch for.
Yeah, we've seen that in a couple cases. For example, a recusal case involving Graham Kiesenberry.
Yeah.
Graham, you're going to have a problem, Kiesenberry.
Yeah.
People wanted to listen in on the recusal of him.
Right.
And suddenly, oddly enough, despite all the worries about the coronavirus pandemic, that went from being a telephonic recusal hearing, and suddenly it was an in-person hearing.
Right.
And as you said many a time, friends don't let friends go to anti-family court.
Alone.
Yeah, don't go alone.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add about, because I thought the whole thing was, to me, Taran, I was sitting down and I'm thinking, is it possible that this stuff is finally going to happen?
So on that note, and we were talking about this. We've talked about this, and others have mentioned it. The problem is it hasn't reached the high enough level. You look at the Chris Clay case, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So in the Chris Clay case, the mother and the father were divorced and
never married. Actually.
Never married. Excuse me. But anyway, so the baby mama's boyfriend is acting as a proxy for the grandparents to get access,
right?
Because he lived there for 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. It had to go all the way to the Supreme Court for something to happen.
For the Supreme Court to be able to step in and say, this is abusive, this is wrong.
So I think in this case, with the the open courts, it's going to take somebody who's got the stones and the wherewithal to challenge it all the way to the Supreme Court of Texas, so that way there can be a final decision. And I'm willing to bet anybody worth their salt is going to say the courts shall be open. It's in the Texas Constitution. Right. It's in information put out by the Supreme Court of Texas that, the court shall be open, whether it's criminal or civil.
Right.
The only way for us to know that justice is being done and these state actors are acting in an appropriate way is to shine sunlight on them.
Right.
Otherwise, we end up with tyrant judge gods.
Yeah. I know we've talked to several attorneys, and I know that there's a couple of attorneys that are willing to back up the person and take it to the Supreme Court if need be. Because they want to see, the good people want to see integrity. It's the shady people that want to keep things shady so that they can keep their operations going.
Yeah, like you said, if you were the judge, come on in.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we had a great time today at the conference. I came away excited. I know that.
My goodness.
Yeah.
The people are out there. They want to help.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm going to get those videos up as soon as I can. And anyway, thank you so much again. The invitation, letting me know about it. It was worth taking the day off of work and driving on down here and staying here tonight. So anyway, thanks so much.
Yep. Take it
Taran,
easy, Jeff.
We'll see you again. Thanks so much.